Hello friends, I am Kamakshi Khandelwal. I am a chartered accountant by profession, having more than 8 years of experience in indirect taxation. Today I am going to share my wonderful experience of uploading GSTR 1, 2 and 3 on the GSTN portal. First, I would like to start with GSTR 1. There are two ways through which GSTR 1 can be uploaded. First is the online mode and second is the offline mode. I will demonstrate each of the modes one by one. First, let's start with the online mode. Businesses that generally have small number of supplies can opt to upload their invoice details and file their GSTR 1 via the online mode. For this, the user needs to log into the GST portal, that is www.gst.gov.in. The GST homepage is displayed. Next, the user needs to log into the GST portal with the valid credentials. The dashboard is displayed. Now, click on the Services tab. Thereafter, click on the Return tab. The following screen opens up. As you can see, there are three options. First, Return Dashboard. Second, View e-file return. Third, Track return status. By clicking on the Return Dashboard tab, the user can upload the details of various statements or returns required to be filed in GST like GSTR 1, GSTR 2, etc. In the View e-file returns tab, the user can view various e-returns filed during any particular period. In Track return status, the user can track the status of their statements or returns filed for any particular tax period. Now, we will click on the Return Dashboard tab to start the process of filing GSTR 1. As soon as you click on the Return Dashboard tab, this window opens up. The user has to select the financial year and the period for which return is required to be filed from the drop-down menu. In my example, I have selected the return filing period as April. Thereafter, click on the Search button. When you click on the Search button, next window that opens up, this window displays the various statements or returns that are required to be filed in GST along with their respective due date. First is the outward supplies made by the taxpayer, GSTR 1, and its due date is 10th of May 2017. Second, inward supplies received by the taxpayer, Form GSTR 2, its due date is 15th of May 2017. Next, monthly return, Form GSTR 3, its due date is 20th May 2017. Next, annual return, form is GSTR 9, its due date is 31st of December 2018. Next is creation and submission of addendum to GSTR 1, form is GSTR 1A. In this, you can make any amendments to the GSTR 1 filed by a taxpayer earlier. Next is creation and submission of periodic TCS return. The form is GSTR 8 and its due date is 10th of May 2017. Next is GSTR 6, return for input service distributor. Its due date is 15th of May 2017. Next is the auto drafted details, GSTR 2A. In this, the outward supplies filed by your supplier will be auto-populated. Next is return for non-resident taxable person, GSTR 5. Its due date is 15th of May 2016. Now, let us start with filing of details of outward supplies made by a taxpayer, that is GSTR 1. Click on the Prepare Online tab. Now, the following window opens up. This screen shows the GSTN number of the supplier, business name, financial year, return period, status as not filed, and its due date. Next column is the gross turnover of the taxpayer in the previous financial year. In this, a user needs to enter the gross turnover of its company or firm in the previous financial year. This information is required to be given only once, that is, at the time of filing the first return. Thereafter, this figure will be picked up automatically. Click on the Save button after entering the turnover details. Now coming down, this section shows the summary of various tables. A user needs to upload the invoice details for the following categories as applicable to it. First, B2B invoices. In this section, you can add the details for supplies made to registered persons. Second, B2C large invoices. This section helps you to add the invoices of taxable outward interstate supplies and where invoice value is more than 2,50,000 issued against advance received in the earlier period. Next, credit or debit notes. This section shows you to add the details of credit or debit notes issued. Export invoice. This section helps you to add the export invoice details. Amended B2B invoice. This section helps you to do amendments to the details of outward supplies to registered person of earlier tax period. Amended B2C large invoice. This section helps you to amend the invoices of taxable outward interstate supplies and where invoice value is more than 2,50,000. Next, amended credit or debit notes. This section helps you to amend the details of credit or debit notes issued. Amended export invoices. This section helps you to amend the export invoice details. B2C others. This section helps you to add the details of taxable outward supplies made to unregistered persons intrastate and interstate where the invoice value is more than 2,50,000 rupees. Next is the nil rated supplies. This section helps you to add the details related to nil rated, exempted and non-taxable outward supplies. Next, tax liability advance payment. This section helps you to add the details of tax liability arising on account of time of supply without issuance of invoice in the same period. Amended B2C others. This section helps you to amend the details of taxable outward supplies made to unregistered persons and where invoice value is less than 2,50,000. Let us start filling in the details one by one. First, click on B2B invoices. Then, click on Add Invoice command. The following window opens up. The user needs to enter the GSTIN number of the receiver to whom the supplies are being made. As soon as you enter the GSTIN number of the receiver name and place of supply pops up automatically. Then the user needs to enter the invoice number and invoice date on which the supplies have been made. In my example, I have fed the invoice number as B2B001 and invoice date as 20th April 2017. I have kept the place of supply unchanged as Andhra Pradesh only. If the place of supply is different from the state where the receiver is registered, then the user can change the place of supply accordingly. Basis of the place of supply, the supply type is automatically freezed by the portal. Since the receiver is located in the state of Andhra Pradesh and me being the supplier is located in the state of Delhi, the transaction will classify as interstate transaction and IGST shall be levied. Now, enter the total invoice value of the supply, that is, the combined invoice value of goods as well as services, excluding any discounts, etc. If the supply is being made via any e-commerce operator like Amazon, Flipkart, then the user has to enter the GSTIN number of the e-commerce operator. Now scroll down. If the supply attract reverse charge, then the user needs to click on this box. In my example, I am assuming that my supply attracts reverse charge and the tax liability will be discharged by the service recipient. This also implies that the tax liability pertaining to this invoice would not be reflected in my electronic liability register. The same would be reflected in the electronic liability register of the recipient. That is 3F Industries in my example. Next, if the tax on this invoice is paid under provisional assessment, then the user needs to click on this icon. Now, the next is the user needs to enter the item details pertaining to an invoice number as stated above. In the category section, the user needs to select the category as goods or service from the drop-down menu. Let us assume that I am supplying printer in my example. Therefore, I have selected goods as my category. Now, the user needs to enter the HSN code of the goods. As you can see here that there is no red asterisk mark on the HSN code. This means that this field is not mandatory to be filled in. So, I have not filled the HSN code of the commodity supplied. Enter the taxable value, rate of IGST applicable. In my example, I have filled the taxable value as 4,50,000 and the rate of IGST as 5%. As soon as you fill up the rate of IGST, the tax amount is calculated automatically by the portal. If any cess is applicable on the goods supplied by the supplier, then the cess rate and the cess amount is also required to be filled. After filling in the required details, the user can click on the Save button to complete the transaction or click on the Add button to add further details of goods or services supplied against a particular invoice number. In my example, I have clicked on Add button to add further details. Now, when I click on the Add button, the following screen opens up. Again, I will select the category as goods or service. In my example, I am also charging for packing and delivering the goods to the recipient. So, I have selected the category as services this time. The user needs to enter the SSE code of the service being supplied. I have entered the SSE code as 00441480. The user has to enter the taxable value of the service provided and the applicable IGST tax rate. In my example, I have taken the taxable value as 6,000 and rate of tax as 18%. A user can enter multiple line items against a single invoice number. After the user has finished entering the item details, click on the Save button to save the details of the invoice. Next window that opens up is B2B invoice summary. It says request accepted successfully. In case the user wants to edit the details entered in the invoice, then the user can click on the edit button as shown in this image. The user may also delete the invoice if it does not want to upload any particular invoice by clicking on this button. Now, I have added another B2B invoice detail in my example by clicking on Add Invoice button, the details of which are as shown in the screen. I have entered the GSTR number of a company located in Delhi. The receiver name and place of supply pops up automatically. Since my location being the supplier and the place of supply of the recipient is in the same state, therefore this transaction is an interstate transaction and CGST and SGST would be levied. Now I have entered the details of goods supplied to the recipient. I have entered the taxable value as 20 lakh. Since this transaction being an intra-state transaction, the portal has automatically displayed the type of tax as CGST and SGST. I have assumed the rate of tax as 5%. Therefore, the tax is split into 2.5% CGST and 2.5% SGST. As soon as I enter the rate of tax, the amount of tax is calculated automatically. Thereafter, I click on Add button to add another item detail. This is shown in the following screen. I have again selected the category as goods, entered the taxable value and rate. This time I have selected tax rate as 12% in my example. So the tax rate is split into 6% CGST and 6% SGST. As soon as I enter the tax rate, the amount of tax is calculated automatically. Now I will click on the Save button to save the transaction. Now I come back to the main screen. As you can see, the number of B2B invoices entered is 2 is reflected here. Now I will add details relating to export supplies made by me by clicking on the Export Invoices. Now the following window opens up. The user needs to enter the invoice number, invoice date, shipping bill number, shipping bill date, port code. In my example, I have entered the invoice number as B2E002, invoice date as 4th April 2017. Since shipping bill number and shipping bill date are not mandatory, therefore I haven't entered the details relating to the same. I have written the port code as USA. The user is not allowed to change the supply type in the case of export transactions. Export transactions are always treated as interstate transactions by virtue of Section 7, Subsection 5, Clause A of IGST Act 2017. Now you are required to enter the total invoice value and GST payment. I have entered the total invoice value as 1,43,750. Now when you move the cursor to GST payment, two options are available: WPay and WOPay. WPay means exporting the goods or service with payment of tax and claiming the refund of tax later. WOPay means exporting the goods or service without charging tax upon execution of bond. I have selected the GST payment as WPay in my example. Now when you scroll down, the user needs to enter the item details. In this case, you have to enter the details in the same manner as demonstrated in the case of B2B. Let us assume I am exporting a printer. Therefore, I have to select the category as goods. Since HSN code is mandatory to be filled in the case of export transactions, I have entered the HSN code as 970111010. I have entered the taxable value as 1,37,750 and the rate of IGST as 12%. As soon as the rate of tax is punched, the amount of tax is calculated automatically. Now click on the Add button to add details of another line item. Continuing with my example of export of printer, I have also charged freight from the customer. Therefore, I have selected the category as services and entered the SAC code as 00441480. In respect of the same, I have entered the taxable value as 6,000 towards the amount of freight and rate of tax as 18%. Now, the tax amount of 1080 is populated automatically. After adding the complete details, I will click on the Save button. The following window appears. There are two invoice details appearing in the screen. One invoice is WPay and another is WOPay. The details for WOPay transactions are to be filled in the same way as WPay. The only difference would be in the GST payment type. In this, I have selected WOPay as the payment method. Therefore, the column related to tax fields are freezed in such a scenario. Then, I am coming back to the main screen. Now, the total number of export invoices appear in the screen as 2. Now, I will enter the details relating to B2C invoice others. B2C invoice other means supplies made to unregistered customers having transaction value less than 2,50,000 against a single invoice. When I click on the B2C, the following window opens up. There are two types of transactions possible for B2C others. First is e-com. Second is non-e-com. In e-com, a user has to fill the details of those supplies which are made through e-commerce portals, and in non-e-com, a user has to upload normal B2C supplies. In my example, I have selected non-e-com. In B2C details, there is no need to give the details invoice-wise. A supplier has to give consolidated supplies made by it in a particular month for a single HSN or SAC code to multiple recipients belonging to a single state. Meaning thereby, if me, being a supplier in Delhi, have supplied, for example, pen having HSN code as 9113100 to multiple recipients in Haryana, state code 06, against different invoices, then I can club all those transactions into one and enter a consolidated invoice value and the tax rate applicable to the supply of pen. which is 18% in my example. Likewise, a supplier can enter multiple entries HSN or SAC code-wise and recipient state-wise. Now, when a user has filled in all the details relating to B2B, B2C, exports, the GSTR1 screen looks like this. Total number of B2B invoices 2. Its total invoice value as 25,50,000. Total taxable value as 25,05,000 and total tax liability as 1,29,400. Total number of export invoices 2. Its total invoice value as 1,48,250. Total taxable value as 1,47,800 and the total tax liability as 17,610. Total number of B2C invoice 1. Total taxable value 10,000 and total tax liability as 1,800. Now before filing the GSTR1, the user has to click on the declaration tab which states I or we hereby solemnly affirm and declare that the information given herein above is true and correct to the best of my or our knowledge and belief and has nothing been concealed therefrom. Thereafter, the user has to click on the Submit tab. Now, the screen appears as follows. You have to select the name of the authorized signatory of your company or firm who is authorized to file the GSTR1. Now, you can see there are two options through which GSTR1 can be uploaded. First is file GSTR1 with DSC. Second, file GSTR1 with EVC. In the first option, the user has to file GSTR1 using the Digital Signature Certificate DSC of the authorized signatory. In file GSTR1 with EVC, in case the user does not want to use the digital signature certificate, he has another option to file GSTR1 with EVC. That is by entering the OTP, one-time password, sent to the mobile number of the authorized signatory whose name was mentioned above. So, when user clicks on File GSTR1 with EVC, the following window opens up. In this, the user is required to enter the OTP sent on the mobile number to file the return and click on Verify. After entering the OTP and clicking on the Verify button, the following window opens up. It says, your form has been successfully filed with ARN number AA070417000112Y. This means our GSTR1 has been uploaded. Now, if the user wants to see the status of GSTR1 filed, then the user needs to click on the services menu on the home page of the GSTN portal. Then click on the Return tab and then click on the Track Return Status command. The following window opens up. It shows the following particulars: the ARN number, return type as GSTR1, financial year as 2017-2018, tax period as April, date of filing 14th May 2017, status as filed valid, and mode of filing as online. Now we have learned how to upload GSTR1 online. I hope you all find it simple and useful. Next, I would demonstrate how to upload GSTR1 via the offline mode. Businesses that have large number of invoices like Reliance, Tata, Airtel, uploading invoices one by one would become cumbersome and time-taking task. To upload the invoices in bulk, GSTN provides an offline utility via which a taxpayer can upload up to 19,000 line items and upload them in one go on the portal via the internet. In case a taxpayer has more than 19,000 line items, the taxpayer can use the offline utility multiple times to upload the invoice details. The appearance and functionality of the return offline utility is the same as that of GSTR1 on the portal. Now, the user needs to access the GST portal, that is www.gst.gov.in, to download the offline utility. The GST homepage is displayed. Next, the dashboard is displayed. Now, the user needs to click on the Downloads tab. Two options are available. First is the training material and second is the offline utility. Click on offline utility, then click on return offline utility. The following window opens up. Click on the download button. The next screen appears like this. Click on the proceed button to download the offline utility. Browse and locate the location where you want to save the downloaded files. After that, double click on the offline utility icon on your desktop to open the utility. The offline utility homepage will be displayed. This page has following three tabs. First, create new invoice or other data for return. The new button is used to create new invoice or upload other data. Return will be prepared on the GST portal based on the data downloaded using the offline utility. One can upload invoice data as many times as one wants. Second, open downloaded return file from GST portal. The open button is used to open return file GSTR2A downloaded from GST portal to accept, reject and modify the invoices. Third, open downloaded error file from GST portal. The open button is used to open error file to correct the invoices rejected by the GST portal. Now, to upload invoice details for filing return, click the New button. The following screen appears. In the GST statement or return field, select the statement or return required to be filed from the drop-down menu. I have selected the option as GSTR1. In the GSTIN of the supplier field, enter your GSTIN number. In the financial year drop-down list, select the financial year for which the return has to be prepared and filed. In this example, we select as 2017-18. From the tax period drop-down list, select the return filing period for which the return has to be prepared. In this example, the tax period is selected as April. In the gross turnover of the previous financial year field, enter your gross turnover in the previous financial year. Lastly, click the Proceed button. Now, the following window opens up. Next step is to upload the invoice data. There are four options to upload the data. Option 1, manual entry of invoice data. Option 2, copy and paste from Excel workbook. Option 3, import full Excel workbook consisting of multiple sheets. Option 4, import the CSV file. Let's start with option 1, that is manual entry of invoice data. In option 2, 3 and 4, an Excel template is required to be uploaded, which I will explain later on. In option 1, you can enter the detail of only one invoice at a time. From the Select section drop-down list, select the applicable section where the invoice data needs to be entered. Firstly, I have selected B2B invoice. Now, enter the invoice details in each column. First is the receiver GSTIN number. As soon as I enter the GSTIN number of the receiver, the supply type is automatically picked up as intrastate, since both the supplier and the receiver belong to the same state, that is Delhi. Now, enter the details for invoice number, invoice date, total invoice value and place of supply. When you select the place of supply as Delhi, then supply type is picked up automatically as intrastate, and this field is unchangeable. Click on the reverse charge icon if the supply attracts reverse charge. In my example, the supply does not attract reverse charge. Enter the GSTIN number of e-commerce operator if the supply is made through e-commerce portals. Then scroll down to the right side of the screen and click the plus icon under the Actions column in order to fill the item level details for this invoice. The Add Item page is displayed. Enter the item level details. First, select the category as goods or service. In my example, I am supplying stationery items to the recipient. Therefore, I have selected goods as the category. Enter the HSN code of the goods, taxable value, select the rate for CGST and SGST from the drop down as 0, 2.5, 6, 9 or 14. In my example, I have taken the tax rate as 6%. As soon as you enter the tax rate, the tax amount is auto-calculated. It is not mandatory to write the HSN or SSE code in case of B2B transactions, while the same is mandatory in case of B2C transactions. After adding the item level details, click the Save button to save line items for the invoice. After clicking the Save button, another row appears. To select another line item to be added against that particular invoice number. Now, I have selected the category as service to combine both supply of goods and supply of service in one invoice. Enter the details relating to type of service supplied, its SSE code, taxable value and rate of CGST and SGST. A user can enter as many line items for an invoice. There is no limit on entering the line items for an invoice. After completing the item details for an invoice, click on the Save button to save line items for the invoice. Once the invoice details are saved, the success message is displayed. As you can see that the invoices added manually are populated in the screen. Likewise, I have added the details of one more invoice which attracts the liability under reverse charge. The user has to fill in the details as explained above. In addition, the user needs to tick the column of reverse charge. Rest everything remains the same. Now let us add some more details in other sections. Select the section as B2C. While filing the B2C details, there is no need to mention the details invoice-wise. Select the type as e-commerce or other than e-commerce. In e-commerce, a user has to fill the details of those supplies which are made through e-commerce portals, and in non-e-commerce, a user has to upload the normal B2C supplies. I have selected other than e-commerce for the sake of simplicity. Then select the category as goods or services. In my example, I am supplying say laptop, therefore I have selected goods. The user needs to enter the HSN code of the laptop. It is mandatory to write down the HSN or SAC code in B2C. After that, select the recipient state code from the drop-down state list. I have selected Haryana as the recipient state code. As soon as I select the recipient state as Haryana, the supply type is automatically freezed as interstate transaction. After that, write down the total taxable value and select the rate of IGST to be applied from the drop-down 0, 5, 12, 18, 28. I have selected the tax rate on laptop as 18%. When the user selects the tax rate, the tax amount is auto-calculated on the total taxable value. After that, click on the Save button under the Actions column to save the invoice. A success message is displayed. Likewise, you can add for other goods or services supplied state-wise and HSN code-wise during a particular month, like April in our example. Now, I am adding the details related to export. Select the section as Export Invoices from the drop-down menu. The following screen opens up. In the first field, the user is required to select the GST payment type from the drop-down menu. I have selected WOPay in my example. Write down the invoice number, invoice date, total invoice value, port code, shipping bill number and shipping bill date. It's not mandatory to write the port code, shipping bill number and shipping bill date. However, it is recommended that shipping bill number and shipping bill date be written so that when we apply for provisional refund, the refund is granted to us smoothly without any hassles. After that, click on the plus button under the Actions tab. Now, add the line item details just like you entered at the time of filing B2B details. Now select the category as goods or service. Let us assume that I am exporting sugar. Therefore, I have selected the category as goods. Write down the HSN code of the goods exported and its total taxable value. Since the exports are zero rated supplies as per section 16 of the IGST Act 2017, and I have selected WOPay as the GST payment type, therefore no tax is charged on this transaction. As you can see, the column for IGST tax rate is freezed. After that, click on the Save button. Continuing with my example, suppose I am charging freight also from the recipient. So now, I will add the details relating to the same in the next row. I will select the type of category as services, enter the SAC code for freight and the amount of freight incurred. You can click on the Save button under the Save tab and add more line items of your invoice if you have exported more than one type of goods or service. After the item details of a particular invoice are fully entered, the user needs to click on the Save button to save the information relating to a particular invoice. Thereafter, the success message is displayed. Likewise, you can add details for other invoices and save them. Now, I want to view the summary of the invoices uploaded by me. For this, I will click on the View Summary tab. The following window opens up. Summary is displayed. Number of invoices against relevant sections of the return is displayed. Also, the total tax liability for each of the sections, that is B2B, B2C, etc., is displayed under each tax type. Under IGST, CGST and SGST. Once you have checked the summary, you are ready to generate the GST compliant format of all invoices imported in the offline tool to be uploaded on the GST portal. For this, click the Generate File button. The following window pops up. The GST compliant file generated by the offline tool JSON format will have to be saved to your computer for uploading the same on the GST portal. So, click on the Save button. Save the file at the desired location in your computer. I am saving this file on desktop. The following box opens up. Click on Open Folder to view the JSON file. Next, the user needs to log in to the GST portal to upload GSTR1. After that, click on the Services tab, then click on the Return tab, then click on the Return Dashboard tab. Select the financial year and the period for which the return is required to be filed. Select the financial year as 2017-18 and month as April. After that, click on Search. The following window opens up. Now, the user has to click on the Upload button to upload the JSON file created for GSTR1. The following window opens up. Browse and select the path to save the JSON file which needs to be uploaded in the GST portal. After that, click on the Upload tab. Now this screen opens up. After uploading the JSON file, a transaction ID is generated against which you can track your upload processing status. This happens as the GST system will perform the following processing functions before adding the invoice in respective section and enabling you to see the data populated in the relevant tables of GSTR1. First is the correctness of GSTIN of receivers, that is, they should be having valid GSTINs, etc. Duplicate entries of invoice number for all returns filed by you in the past months of the financial year in which you are filing the data. Other sanity checks on the data uploaded by you. Now, I discussed earlier in my session that a user has 4 options to upload the invoice details. First, I have discussed just now. Now, I will discuss the remaining options. If you will see the offline utility, there is an option Import File. The user can import Excel files saved in its system and upload them using this command. For this, the user needs to click on Import File button in the offline utility. The following window opens up. A user can either import all sections by clicking on Import Excel, or he can opt to import outward supply details section wise. In section wise, again 2 options are available: Import CSV and Copy Excel. Now we will understand each section one by one. Before starting with the options, I would like to discuss the contents of the Excel sheet which is required to be uploaded. A multi-Excel sheet is downloaded at the time of downloading the Return Offline utility. This multi-Excel sheet has 13 worksheets for each section. When you first download the Excel sheet, there is a header only in each sheet. You need to manually enter the data in these sheets. Let us understand how to fill the data in these worksheets. First is the B2B worksheet. In the receiver GSTIN or UIN column, enter the GSTIN or UIN of the receiver. Then in the invoice number, invoice date and the total invoice value columns, enter the invoice number, date of the invoice and the value of the total invoice. In the place of supply column, enter the code for the place of supply. In the reverse charge column, enter Y or N. Y stands for yes and N stands for no. In the provisional assessment column, enter Y in case the tax on the invoice for which details are entered is paid under the provisional assessment, or else enter N. In the GSTIN of the e-commerce operator field, enter the GSTIN of the e-commerce company. In the category column, enter G if the category is goods, or else enter S if the category is services. In case of goods, in the HSN column, enter the HSN code, 8 or more digits of the goods supplied. In case of services, in the SSE column, enter the SSE code of the services provided. In the total taxable column, enter the taxable value of the goods or services. In the IGST, CGST, SGST and cess amount column, enter the IGST, CGST, SGST and cess amount. Similarly, you need to enter the details for other worksheets in the workbook. In case of B2C small worksheet, in the type column, enter E if the supply is done through e-commerce, or else enter OE. Other details can be filled in as explained above. In case of CDNR worksheet, credit debit note worksheet, in the note type column, enter C in case of credit note, or else enter D in case of debit note. In the reason for issuing credit note or debit note column, mention the reason for which the debit note or credit note is issued. In case of export worksheet, in the export type column, enter W pay if supply is with the payment of taxes, else enter WO pay if supply is without the payment of taxes. Again, I would like to repeat one thing. You need to fill up only those fields which are relevant. Others may be left blank. Also, do not change any field in the header or format of the Excel file. Save the Excel sheet after entering the data. In case you need to add multiple line items for a single invoice in the Excel sheet, the Excel row should have the repeated invoice details, which is common for multiple line items. For example, GSTIN, invoice number, invoice date and place of supply. You can change the category and other details related to the line item as applicable. Sample Excel with multiple line item for single invoice is shown below. Once the Excel sheet is imported, offline utility takes care to map the line item details with respective invoice. I hope you have understood the contents of the Excel worksheet. Now, once the Excel file is created, the user needs to upload it on the return offline utility. First, I would like to discuss the Copy Excel option available in the Return Import One section tab. From the Select section drop-down list, select the section for which you want to upload the invoices. I have selected B2B invoice. Then click the Copy Excel button. A pop-up window is displayed. In the click here, press the Ctrl V keys on the keyboard to paste the data copied from the Excel sheet. A confirmation message is displayed. Click the Proceed button to add the invoices. Thereafter, a success message is displayed. Now, click the Back button. You will notice that the invoices present in the Excel sheet are populated in the screen. Third option is to import the CSV file. To import the invoice data from the CSV file to create GST compliant file, JSON file, the user needs to perform the following steps. First, use the CSV template downloaded as the part of offline utility and create a CSV file for the applicable section of the return. The data in the CSV file should be in the same format as prescribed in the respective return forms. Click the Import Files button to import the CSV file in the offline utility. From the Select section drop-down list, select the appropriate section. Under the section-wise import section, select the Import CSV button. Browse and select the CSV file to import the data from CSV. A confirmation message is displayed. Click the Proceed button to save imported invoice details. Thereafter, a success message is displayed. Now again click the back button. Notice that the invoices present in the Excel sheet are populated in the screen. Now the last option is import full Excel workbook consisting of multiple sheets. Through Return Import All sections, you can upload invoice data entered in the respective worksheets for all sections at one go. To import the invoice data from the Excel workbook, the user needs to perform the following steps. First, open the multi-section sheet available in the download zip folder from the GST portal. Enter the relevant data from invoices and other documents in the relevant sheets of workbook like B2B supplies, business to consumer, large, for interstate sales, etc. The Excel file should be in the same format as prescribed in the respective return form. In case where you do not have data applicable for all sections, those sections are to be left blank. Do not delete any worksheet. Then click the Import File button to import the multi-section sheet in the offline utility. Under the Return Import All sections, select the Import Excel button. Browse and select the multi-section sheet to import data from the Excel workbook. A confirmation message is displayed. Click the Proceed button to save the imported invoice details. Thereafter, a success message is displayed. Now if you click this back button, you will notice that the invoices present in the Excel sheet are populated in the screen. Now the user needs to click on the View Summary button to generate the file containing the invoices uploaded here. The summary is displayed. Next, the user needs to click on the Generate File button to generate the JSON file. Next, the user needs to log into the GST portal to upload the JSON file as explained above. I hope you have understood how to upload the invoice details via the Return Offline utility. Next, I am going to demonstrate how to upload the GSTR tool. For this, the user needs to click on the Services tab, then on the Return Dashboard tab, then select the financial year and the period for which the return is required to be filed. Thereafter, click on the Search button. The following window opens up. Click on the Prepare Online tab to upload the details for inward supplies received by the taxpayer. Now, this section shows the invoice details for inward supplies received by the taxpayer under various heads of GSTR2. Generally, in GSTR2, details in various heads like B2B, B2C, etc. Details will be auto-populated on the basis of inward supplies accepted, rejected or modified by the taxpayer in GSTR 2A. Thereafter, if the taxpayer wants to add some missing invoice details, that is those details which are either not uploaded by the supplier or purchases made from unregistered dealers, can be added in GSTR 2. Now let us discuss each of this one by one. First is the B2B invoice. This section shows the registered supplier details. Next, amended B2B invoices. This section shows the amendments to the details of the inward supplies received in earlier tax period. Import of goods or capital goods. This section helps you to add details of goods or capital goods received from overseas. Amended import of goods. This section helps you to edit the amended import of goods. Import of service. This section helps you to add details of import of services. Amended import of service. This section helps you to edit amended import of services. Credit or debit note. This section helps you to add credit or debit note details. Amended credit or debit note. This section helps you to edit the credit or debit note amendments. Next is the ISD credits received. This section shows you the summary of credit received from the input service distributor. Next is the nil rated. This section shows you the summary of supplies received from compounding or unregistered dealer and other exempt nil or non-GST supplies. Next is the TDS credit received. This section shows the summary of TDS credit received. TCS credit received. This section shows the summary of tax collected at source credit received. ITC received. This section helps you to add details of the input tax credit received. Tax liability under reverse charge. This section shows you summary of tax liability under reverse charge arising on account of time of supply without receipt of invoice. Amended tax liability under reverse charge. This section shows amendment in tax liability under reverse charge arising on account of time of supply without receipt of invoices. Next, tax paid under reverse charge. This section shows you summary of tax paid under reverse charge in the earlier tax periods on account of time of supply for which invoices are issued in the current period. Next, HSN or SAC summary of inward supplies. This section shows you the harmonized system of nomenclature HSN and services accounting code SAC summary of inward supplies. B2B invoices for unregistered supplier. This section shows the details of supplies received from unregistered supplier. Amendment of B2B invoice for unregistered supplier. This section helps you to make amendment in the details of supplies received from unregistered supplier. ITC reversal. This section shows you the summary of ITC reversal. Amended ITC reversal. This section helps you to make amendments in ITC reversal. Next, invoices not paid within 180 days. This section shows the details of invoices on which tax credit has been claimed but invoices are not paid within 180 days. Invoices paid after 180 days. This section shows the details of invoices which are paid after 180 days and therefore eligible for reclaim of tax credit. A user can click the respective section under which the details are required to be filled in. Let us assume I had purchased furniture for my office from a registered supplier and he did not mention the outward supplies for the same in his GSTR 1. Now I want to claim the credit on the furniture so purchased. Therefore, I will click on B2B invoice details. Then click on the add missing invoice details. Then I will enter the details of the supplier's GSTIN number. As soon as you add the GSTIN number of the supplier, his name will pop up automatically. Thereafter, enter the invoice number, invoice date, total invoice value and place of supply. When you enter the place of supply as Delhi, the supply type is automatically freezed as interstate. Therefore, I would be eligible to claim the tax credit of IGST paid to the supplier. Then scroll down. Now you have to enter the item details. Since I have purchased a furniture, therefore I will select the category as goods. Thereafter, I will enter the HSN code for furniture, its taxable value and IGST tax rate applicable on furniture. As soon as I enter the tax rate, the tax amount is automatically displayed. Select the eligibility for ITC as inputs or capital goods. Since furniture is a capital good for me and I will capitalize the same in my books of accounts, thus I have selected the eligibility as capital goods. Thereafter, write down the total tax available as ITC, IGST and ITC available this month. In my scenario, I have entered the amount as 6,000. Then click on the Add button. The following window opens up. You can click on the Add Item button to enter the item details of any other item purchased against this particular invoice. Else, click on the Save button. When the user clicks on the Save button, the following window opens up. Likewise, you can enter the details in various other heads. Then scroll down to the last page of the window. Click on the Declaration tab. Enter the name of the authorized signatory. Thereafter, click on File GSTR 2 with EVC. Enter the OTP as received on the mobile number of the authorized signatory and click on the Proceed button. Acknowledgement is received and GSTR 2 is filed. Now go back to the home page, click on the Service tab, then the Return tab. Thereafter, click on the Track Return Status to view the status of GSTR 2 filed. See, the status of GSTR 2 is coming as filed valid and the mode of filing is online. Now that you have filed GSTR 1 and GSTR 2, the next step is to generate the GSTR 3. For this, the user again needs to go to the home page, click on the Services tab, then the Return tab and then click on the Return Dashboard tab. Again select the financial year and the period for which the return is required to be filed as April. Thereafter, click on the Search button. The following window opens up. As you can see, it is showing the status of GSTR 1 and GSTR 2 as filed. Then click on the Generate button to generate the GSTR 3 summary. To view the GSTR 3 summary, the user needs to go back to the home page, click on the Services tab, then click on the Ledgers tab. Thereafter, click on the Utilize ITC or Cash command. The following window opens up. This window shows the details relating to return related liability, assessed appeal related liability and deposit against investigation ID. Click on GSTR 3 to view the return related liability. The window screen opens up as follows. This window displays the total liability under other than reverse charge, interest, late fee, penalty, reverse charge, interest, late fee and penalty for each of the tax heads IGST, CGST, SGST, cess and total. As you can see, my tax liability for the month of April is 1800 IGST. Now, when you scroll down, 3 payment options are displayed. First, pay through provisional ITC. Second, pay through ITC up to previous month. Third, pay through cash. In pay through provisional ITC, you can use the ITC balance as available in the current month. In pay through ITC up to previous month, the user can use the ITC balance available in its electronic credit ledger up to the previous month. Since I am filing the GSTR 1 for the month of April for the first time, there is no previous balance available. But when you are going to file GSTR 1, 2 and 3 for the month of July in the month of August, then you must be having the balance in ITC up to previous month as balance carried over from the earlier tax laws which was duly reflected in Tran 1. It is recommended that a user must first utilize its ITC balance of previous months rather than provisional ITC, as the previous month's provisional ITC must have been finalized by now. If a user first utilize its provisional ITC, then there might be chances that my provisional ITC is rejected due to some reasons, and it may ultimately lead to payment of differential tax liability with interest to the government. Next, in the pay through cash mode, you can discharge the tax liability by Challan. Now, I have a tax liability of 1800 to be discharged. I am first utilizing my provisional ITC balance to discharge this liability. Before utilizing the ITC, the user can check the balance of ITC available to him by clicking on the check balance command. This screen shows that I have ITC balance in IGST in the current month as 6000. There is no carried forward balance, and the cash balance is 50,000 each in IGST, CGST and SGST. So now I can utilize my full ITC balance to discharge my IGST tax liability of 1800. One thing I want to tell you, that the credit of IGST has first to be utilized for the discharge of IGST liability, then CGST liability and then the SGST liability. Similarly, the ITC balance in CGST can first be utilized to discharge my CGST tax liability and then the IGST tax liability. Lastly, the ITC balance in SGST can first be utilized to discharge my SGST tax liability and then the IGST tax liability. Cross utilization of ITC of CGST with SGST and vice versa is not possible. Now coming back to my example, I am utilizing only 900 balance from my ITC balance, rest I would like to pay by cash. Now click on the utilize ITC command, the following window opens up. Click on the confirm button to utilize the balance in the ITC ledger. Now I am left with 900 IGST liability to be discharged. I would be discharging the same by cash. For discharging the tax liability by cash, a user has to create a challan. For this, a user needs to click on the services tab, then on the payment tab. Now you can see there are three options available. First is create challan, second save challan, third challan history. In create challan, a user can create a new challan to discharge his tax liability. In save challan, a user can view the challans saved by him. In challan history, a user can view the total number of challans generated by him. Now, we will click on the create challan command to create a new challan. Now we will click on the create challan command to create a new challan. The following window opens up. In this, the user has to enter the amount of challan he wishes to generate for each tax code, that is CGST, IGST, SES and Delhi GST. In my example, I have entered 20,000 each in CGST, IGST and Delhi GST tax head. Now the next step is we have to select a payment mode. There are three ways by which we can make the payment. First is e-payment, second over the counter, third NEFT or RTGS. I am choosing e-payment as my payment mode. After that, click on generate challan. The following window opens up. It says challan successfully generated. You can download the GST challan generated. This is a sample GST challan. Now once the challan is generated, the user has to make payment of his tax liability. In my example, I have selected e-payment as my tax liability. In e-payment, again there are two options. First, net banking. Second is the credit or debit card. I have selected net banking as my payment option. When you select net banking, the name of banks through which the payment can be made gets listed. A user can select any bank via which it wants to make the payment. I have selected Union Bank in my example. Thereafter, click on the Make Payment command. This will take you to a secure gateway. Enter the user ID and password and click on Sign On. When your payment has been made successfully, an acknowledgement receipt shall be generated by the bank. Thereafter, the following window opens up. It says, your payment is successfully completed. Now coming back to my example, I will utilize this cash balance to make payment of my balance IGST tax liability of rupees 900. So I have entered the amount in other than reverse charge as 900. Now I will click on Pay Through Cash command and enter the amount of cash to be used, that is 900. Then click on Utilize Cash command. Then click on Confirm button to confirm the payment of liability by cash. The following window opens up. This completes the process of filing the GSTR 1, 2 and 3, generation of challan and the payment of tax liability. Hope you will find it useful. In case you have any queries, you can contact me at my mail ID, which is flashed on the screen below. Thank you. Have a nice day.